In this series, we're going to review capabilities of JetBrains IDEs. They offer a rich set of features to increase developer productivity. To demonstrate features, I'm going to use PhpStorm IDE, but most of the features that we are going to review will also be applicable to other JetBrains IDEs: IntelliJ, PyCharm, CLine, WebStorm, and so on. We are mostly going to focus on the functionality of the IDE. And if you're interested in UI customizations related to changing themes, configuring fonts, and other UI aspects of the IDE, there is a separate playlist on the channel where we have configured interface of PhpStorm step by step. And now let's get going. And the first thing that we are going to do is to enable Presentation Assistant, because I'm going to use keyboard shortcuts a lot in this series. And this option allows us to see used keyboard shortcuts on the screen. So I'll open up Global Search by pressing Shift twice, search for Presentation Assistant, and enable this feature. And then I'm going to configure this assistant a bit. Let's open up Settings by pressing Command, comma. In here I'll search for Presentation Assistant Settings. And what I'm gonna do in here is decrease font size of keyboard shortcuts. And also, besides showing macOS keyboard shortcuts, I'm also gonna show Windows shortcuts. So let's start reviewing features of the IDE with Global Search. To open it up, we have to press Shift twice. And here we can start typing our search query, and right away we're going to see a bunch of results. We can navigate through these results by using arrow keys up and down. And to quickly go to the bottom of this list, we can press Command arrow down. And to quickly jump at the top of the list, we can press Command arrow up. As you can see, there are a bunch of tabs in this panel, and all these tabs allow us to search for individual elements in our project. So if we'd like to search for classes by using class name, we have to press Tab to switch to the second tab called Classes, and here we can use class names to search only for classes. The third tab, Files, allows us to search by using file name. Fourth tab, Symbols, is used to search for specific symbols in the projects, such as class names, method names, functions, constants, and so on. The next tab is called Actions. Here we can search for commands that we can execute right from within this panel. There are lots of different commands that IDE offers us. But besides running commands, we can also use this tab to search for specific settings and toggle those settings without having to open up Settings panel and search for those settings there. And finally, the last tab in this Global Search panel is called Text. This panel only shows matches in the content of files. So basically, this is usual Global Search. And besides navigating to these individual tabs by using Tab key, we can also open up specific tab right away by using keyboard shortcuts. For example, to open up second tab called Classes, we can use Command O on Mac or Ctrl N on Windows. To open up Files tab, we can use Shift Command O. Then we can press Option Command O to open up Symbols tab. To open up Actions tab, we can press Shift Command A or Ctrl Shift A on Windows. And as was already mentioned previously, the Global Search panel allows us to search not only for classes, files, or text within files, but also we can search for IDE settings. And we can toggle those settings from this panel. All the settings are categorized, so to search for the specific category, we have to use slash and type in category name. And this way we're going to see all the settings that belong to the specified category. And we can also toggle individual settings on and off by pressing Enter. And in the same way, we can also enable or disable certain plugins. As you might have noticed, some commands have keyboard shortcuts assigned to them, and some of them don't. So for example, New Branch does not have a keyboard shortcut assigned, but we can easily assign keyboard shortcut to a particular command right from this global search panel. For this, we have to select command and then press Option Enter. Then we're gonna get such dialog where we can assign keyboard shortcut to this action. There is one feature called abbreviations, which allows us to quickly access certain commands right from within global search. Let's take a look how it works. So for example, I would like to quickly search for the command called close all tabs. And to be able to do so, I will have to assign abbreviation to this command. To do this, let's open up settings by pressing command, comma. Here, I'll select keymap and search for command name. In our case, it is close all tabs. Then I will right-click on the command and select add abbreviation. And I'll use first letter of each word in the command name. And after this command will be easily searchable by using abbreviation. Let's open up global search by pressing Shift twice and search for abbreviation cat. And as you can see, we have found the corresponding command, close all tabs. I have assigned this abbreviation just to demonstrate this feature. So I'm gonna go back to the settings and remove this abbreviation. Moving on, the first tab from the global search panel shows all search results, not only those that have been found within content of the files. It combines results from all tabs. But to see only search results within the content of files, we have to navigate to the tab called Text. And as we can see in here, we have only those search results that have been found within the content of files. And in case you don't like to display search results within the content of files in the global search panel, we can disable it. Let's open up settings and search for advanced settings. In this search field, I'm gonna type in search everywhere. And to disable searching within the content of files by using global search panel, we have to disable this checkbox, show text search results in search everywhere. Now let's open up global search by pressing Shift twice once again, and this time, as we can see, we no longer see search results within the content of files, and the text tab is no longer displayed. There is another way to do global search within content of the files, and to run this global search we can press Command Shift F. Here we can start typing our search query and see search result in such view. But I still prefer to show search results within global search panel, so I'm gonna open up settings and activate this option, show text search results in search everywhere. Additionally, we can also search for Git branches and commits by using the content of those commits. So we can add another tab called Git in here. Let's open up settings, move to advanced settings. Let's search for Git, scroll to the very end and activate the following option, show Git tab in search everywhere. And there we go. Now inside the search panel we have an additional tab called Git. In here we can search for Git branches and commits by using the text in those commits. And finally, there is one more feature of the global search panel that we are going to review, and that is mathematical expressions. We can use this global search panel to do basic math by executing simple arithmetic operations and using simple mathematical functions such as square root. And right away we're seeing the result of this expression. With that, we have reviewed main features of the global search panel. Before we start, I'd like to point out the version of PhpStorm I'm currently using, because some of the keyboard shortcuts I'm going to use might actually be different in other versions of PhpStorm, but in general they will most likely be the same. And also default keyboard shortcuts depend on the option in the setting. If we'll open up keymap section, there is this drop-down where you can choose default set of keyboard shortcuts. In my case, I'm using macOS. And now that we got that out of the way, let's start reviewing keyboard shortcuts that allow us to navigate between files. And to demonstrate these shortcuts, I'm gonna open up a couple of files first. As you might have noticed, I usually keep my tabs hidden, but for the purpose of this lesson, I'll switch over to the settings, find the setting called Tab Placement, and show tabs at the top. As you can see now, tabs are shown. So two shortcuts that we are going to start with are responsible for navigating between tabs to the left and to the right. To move to the previous tab, we have to press Command-Shift, opening square bracket. And to move to the right, we have to press Command-Shift, closing square bracket. And besides switching between tabs, we can also use keyboard shortcuts to move between recent locations, not only in different files, but also within the same file. And what I mean by that is this. For example, let's modify this file by adding an empty line at the beginning of the class and at the end of the class. And also, let's remove one of these methods. And to quickly navigate between all those places where we had the cursor, we can use the following shortcuts. Command opening square bracket to navigate backward to the previous cursor location, and Command closing square bracket to navigate to next cursor position. And as you can see, while I'm pressing those shortcuts, cursor is moving between the places where I have made modifications. And regardless where I have made that modification, whether it is in the same file or in completely different file, by pressing Command opening square bracket or closing square bracket, we're going to navigate between recent cursor positions. And to see all those recent locations, we can press Command-Shift-E. We'll get such a window where we can use arrow up or arrow down to navigate through this list. And by pressing Enter, we can quickly jump to the selected location. Also, to see only those places where we have made any modifications, we can press Command-Shift-E second time to activate this option, and this way we're seeing only modified locations. Another useful shortcut allows us to quickly navigate to the last modified location. So I'm going to modify this method by removing everything from the body, and then navigate to a different file. And now to quickly go back to the last modified location, I'll press Command-Shift backspace, and there we go. And besides navigating to a particular location by using the recent locations window, we can also manipulate this list by removing entries from it. To remove certain entry, we just have to select it and press backspace, like so. And this way the entry will be removed from the history of recent locations. In addition to that, we can also use search in this window. We just have to start typing, and this way list entries will be filtered by the text that has been found within certain location. Another way to navigate between recently opened files is using the Recent Files dialog. To open up this window, we can press Command-E. In this window, we can see the list of recently opened files. We can use arrow up or down to navigate between these files. And to open up a particular file, we have to press Enter. Also, we can use search. As always, we just have to start typing, and the list will be narrowed. And to show only those files that have been modified, we have to press Command-E second time to activate this option. And just like in the recent location window, we can also remove entries from this list by pressing backspace. Moving on, let's open up sidebar by pressing Command-1, and now I'm gonna open a couple of files. And please note, as I'm opening files, they're not getting focus in the File Explorer. I usually like to have those files focused in the Explorer when I open them, so I'm gonna activate the following setting, called Always Select Opened File. So now let's open up a couple more files, and as you can see, after opening the file, it gets focus in the File Explorer. So all that functionality that we have reviewed in this lesson is also available via Global Search Panel. To open up window with recent files, we can run recent files command. To open up window with recent locations, we can run recent locations command. Some of these commands might have keyboard shortcut assigned to them, that way it will be displayed right next to the command. But if certain commands do not have keyboard shortcuts, we can always assign them by pressing Option Enter, or reassign existing keyboard shortcuts. Another way to navigate through project files is to use navigation bar located at the bottom. To put focus at this navigation bar, we have to press Command Arrow Up. And here we can use arrows to navigate between project files. By the way, search works here as well. We just have to start typing and the list with files will be narrowed. And to open up selected file, we have to press Enter. And that's about it. In this lesson we have reviewed several ways how we can navigate between project files. In this lesson, let's review how we can quickly navigate between certain elements within one file. And before we start, I'm gonna switch over to Settings and disable tabs. Here I'll choose option None, and this way tabs will be hidden. So to quickly navigate between properties and methods of the class, we can open up such panel by using keyboard shortcut Command 7, where all properties and methods of the current class will be listed, and we can use arrow up and arrow down keys to navigate between these elements. And to close this panel, we can use Shift Escape. There is another way to open up the same window but in a different form, as a floating window, and to do so we can open up Global Search panel where we can execute actions by pressing Shift Command A. And here let's search for a command called File Structure, or we could simply press keyboard shortcut Command F12. And as we can see, we're getting the same window, but this time it is a floating window. Here we can also use arrow up and arrow down to navigate between methods and properties. Moving on, to quickly navigate between methods, we can also use keyboard shortcuts. To navigate to the next method, we can use Ctrl Shift arrow down. And to navigate to the previous method, we can use Ctrl Shift arrow up. And as we can see, by pressing these keyboard shortcuts, cursor jumps between method names. Then to go to a particular line, we can press Command L, where we can type in line number, where we'd like to go. And as you can see, cursor jumps right to that line that we have specified. And if we'd want to jump to a particular position on the line, we can also specify column number by using column like so. And our cursor will be moved right to that exact position. Also, besides moving through different methods by using Ctrl Shift arrow up or down, we can also quickly jump to the beginning or the end of a certain block. And to do this, we have to press the following keys: Option Command, opening square bracket to go to the beginning of a certain block, or Option Command, closing square bracket to go to the end of the certain block. And this works not only within method blocks, but also within classes and other blocks such as if statements or for loops. Let's create a couple of blocks here and try to jump to the beginning or end of those blocks. And as we can see, it's working. Also, there is an option to navigate between warnings and errors within certain file. As we can see at the top right, there is an icon by clicking which we can open up such panel where we can quickly go to certain warnings or errors. But there is actually a faster way to go to the next warning or error. To do so, we have to press F2. And to go backward to the previous warning or error, we have to press Shift F2. And by the way, to open up panel with warnings and errors, we can also use keyboard shortcut. That is Command N6. And here we can navigate between these errors and warnings by using arrow keys up and down. And by pressing Enter, we can quickly jump to the selected error. Another useful keyboard shortcut allows us to select the next occurrence of the word. So for example, I have my cursor currently positioned at the protected word, and if I press Ctrl G, I'm gonna select the next occurrence of this word. And if I'll continue to press this keyboard shortcut, I'm gonna be selecting next occurrences, and eventually multiple cursors will be created, and I can start editing these selections. And another similar keyboard shortcut which allows us to quickly select all same words within one file is Ctrl-Command-G, and this way all words have received selection, and we can start editing them all at once. And this is it for this lesson. We have reviewed how we can quickly navigate between different elements within one file. In this lesson we will continue reviewing various ways how we can navigate between project files. So let's start with the following shortcut. Command-B. It allows us to navigate to the declaration of a particular symbol. For example, I'd like to quickly jump to the declaration of this interface must verify email. To do this, I firstly have to position the cursor on top of this element and press keyboard shortcut Command-B. And as you can see, we have jumped right to the declaration of this interface. Same thing works with traits. Let's quickly jump to the declaration of the trait called hasFactory. I'm gonna position my cursor on top of this trait and press Command-B. And here we go. In the same way it works for base classes. Let's quickly jump to the class called Authenticatable. But in this case, Authenticatable isn't really a class name but an alias of the class. So I'm gonna firstly position my cursor on top of the class name, which is user in this case, and then press Command-B. So as you can see, by pressing Command-B, we can quickly jump to the declaration of the certain element. But besides using keyboard shortcut, we can also do it with the mouse. So firstly we have to press Command and then hover over on a particular element, and then click to navigate to the file where this element is declared. Another useful keyboard shortcut is Command-U, and if we'll press this keyboard shortcut while having the cursor on top of some class, we can see a list of all traits and interfaces that this class implements, and we can quickly navigate to any element from this list by pressing Enter. Let's try it out one more time. I'm gonna open up class called controller.php. As we can see, this class inherits from the base controller and also implements a couple of traits. And if I'll press Command-U while having the cursor on top of this class, I'll see a list where both of these traits as well as base class are included. Besides that, we can quickly navigate to a particular file where a certain element is declared. For example, I want to quickly jump to the declaration of the base controller. To do so, I'll firstly position my cursor on top of this element and then press Command arrow down. But just because base controller is actually an alias, we have to press this keyboard shortcut while having our cursor on top of the real class name. And this way we're taken to that place where this class is declared. And as you might have guessed, it also works for other elements, such as traits. Let's try it out. I'll press Command arrow down and make sure that I was navigated to the implementation. And here we go, I have navigated to the place where this trait is declared. But what if we, for example, want to quickly see implementation of some element without having to navigate to the file? We can also do this by using keyboard shortcut Option space. And we got such floating window where we can see the source code of the particular element. Same goes with method names. For example, we'd like to quickly see the implementation of some method. For example, hasMany. Let's position the cursor on top of this method and press Option space. Moving on, now we're going to take a look at how we can see all the places where a certain element is referenced. For example, I would like to know where this loadRelationships method is used. And for this, I can run the following command, find usages. And we got this panel at the bottom with a list of all the places where loadRelationships method is currently used. Or we can do this in a slightly different way by executing the command called showUsages. This way we're getting the floating window with a list of all the places where this element is being used. And just like with any other list, we can use arrow down and up to navigate through this list, and press Enter to navigate to a particular place. Let's try to run showUsages command one more time, but this time we'll use keyboard shortcut As you can see in my case, it is Option Command F7. Also, we can open up kind of an expanded Find Usages menu, where we can see more commands, including Show Usages command that we have just used. And just like with most lists in PhpStorm, they are filterable. We can just start typing and see how the list is narrowed. By the way, there is one feature of PhpStorm which is enabled by default, but I have disabled it. So I'm gonna switch over to the settings and temporarily enable this feature to demonstrate it. I will search for inlay hints and check all these checkboxes. And this way, right next to each method, we can see amount of times this method is being referenced. And there is even more. If we'll click on this label, we're gonna get a list of all the references, from where we can quickly jump to a particular place of usage. And it works not only for methods, but also for classes. Here, as you can see, we get the same label with amount of times this class is being referenced. And just like with methods, I can click on this label to see list of places where this class is being referenced. And that's about it. We have reviewed several additional ways how we can navigate between files. At the end, I'm going to open up settings and uncheck all these options to disable inlay hints. Let's continue in the next lesson. Let's take a look at how we can apply formatting to the file as well as optimize imports. So first of all, let's break formatting in this file, and then I'm gonna open up Command Palette by pressing Command-Shift-A and run the command reformat code, or we can use keyboard shortcut, which is Option-Command-L. And as we can see, the file was formatted. Now let's try it out one more time, but this time I'll use keyboard shortcut. Here we go. Besides applying formatting to only one file, we can also apply formatting to all the files within a particular folder. To do so, we have to right-click on the folder, choose an option Reformat Code. Here we have a couple of extra options that we are going to review later on, but for now let's just press Run, and we get the same result. The file was formatted. So this is how we can apply formatting to files. And now let's switch over to user.php and take a look at how we can optimize imports. And by optimizing imports, I mean removing unused imports and sorting imports in alphabetical order. Let's add an import that will be unused. And now I'm going to execute the command called optimize imports. Or alternatively, we can press Ctrl Option O. As we can see, unused import has been removed, and all imports have been sorted in alphabetical order. We can also apply these two actions at once, formatting as well as optimizing imports. So this time I'm going to run the command called reformat file. And here I can choose some of the additional actions that I would like to execute while applying formatting. And as for the rearrange option, we're going to review it right now. For this, I'm gonna open up playlist.php. And here, let's just change the order of elements in this class. I'm gonna move protected property relationships so that it comes after method called channel. And then I'm gonna change access modifiers of some of these methods. One of these methods I'm gonna make private and protected. And so what this rearrange code command will allow us to do is it is going to rearrange code within the class in such a way that firstly we're gonna get all declarations of properties, followed by method declarations. And methods will be ordered in such a way that firstly public methods will come, then protected methods, and in the end private methods. By the way, all these actions that we have reviewed, such as formatting, optimizing imports, and rearranging code, they can be executed automatically after saving the file. And to make them run automatically, let's open up Settings, search for Actions on Save, and here let's check the first three checkboxes. Reformat code optimize imports, and rearrange code. And now I'm gonna press Command S to save this file, and as you can see, the code has been formatted, along with import optimization. But I prefer to do these actions manually, so I'm going to uncheck all these checkboxes. And lastly, let's review another way to apply formatting. Let's run the command called reformat file, or we can also press Option-Shift-Command-L. And here, in addition to the formatting, if we'd like to optimize imports as well as rearrange code, we can check these two checkboxes. And we are getting the same result. So in this lesson we have reviewed additional techniques to keep our code clean, such as formatting, optimizing imports, and rearranging code. Let's continue in the next one. Let's see how search works, and we will start with a local search to search for something within opened file. So to open up search panel, we need to press Command F, and here, if we'll type search query, all search matches in the file will be highlighted. To go forward to the next search match, we press Enter, and to go backward, we have to press Shift-Enter. And after we are done with searching, to close this search panel, we have to press Escape. Also, if we will select something before doing the search, then the text that we have selected will automatically be populated in the search field. There is also an option to search for something only within specified selection. And to run the search within the selection, we have to activate the following option: Search in Selection, or alternatively we can press Ctrl-Option-E. And as we can see now, when I'm pressing Enter, my cursor stays within the selection and only matches from this selection are highlighted. Also, we can easily see all our previous search queries, and to see the list of previous search queries, we have to firstly focus on the search field and press Option arrow down. We will see such a list with our previous search queries, and we can select any item from this list to run the search by using particular search query once again. Also, if we'd like to see the list of our search results in a separate panel, we can do so by clicking the following menu item: Open Results in Find window, or pressing keyboard shortcut Option F7. Right after that, we're seeing the panel at the bottom where all our search results are grouped. And we can easily navigate to each search result from this list by simply clicking on it. Next, if you'd like to not only search for something, but also replace something, to open up Search and Replace panel, instead of pressing Command F, we need to press Command R. Here in the first search field, we are specifying which text we'd like to replace, and in a second search field, we're specifying the text that we'd like to replace with. And then by pressing Enter, we're going to replace each individual match separately, or we can also press Replace All to do replacement globally within this file. And now let's talk a little bit about global search. So to open up panel with global search, we have to press Command Shift F. Here we are typing our search query, and at the bottom we're seeing all search results across all project files. Also, if we select some text up front and then press Command Shift F, then the text we have selected will be automatically populated in the search field. And to open up Global Search and Replace panel, we have to press Command Shift R. So in the first field we are specifying the text that we'd like to replace, and in the second field we are specifying our replacement text. As we can see, this panel has a lot of additional options. Here we can also specify whether we're gonna run the search in the whole project or in the specific folder. And also there is an additional option to specify in files with what extension search should run. And finally, one more little tip. If we'll right-click on any search result in this global search panel, we have several options to copy-paste to that file that we have just right-clicked on, whether it will be an absolute path, relative one, or basically a file name. And that's about it for this lesson. We have taken a look at how search as well as search and replace functionality work. PhpStorm, as many modern IDEs, offer us auto-completion feature. That is, when we start typing some code, we get a list of all possible auto-completions. And by default, this auto-completion list appears automatically. But in my case, I have disabled this feature. So in order to show auto-completion list, I have to press Ctrl space. And here we can use arrow up and down and press Enter to choose particular auto-completion. But for this lesson, I'm going to enable the feature to open up auto-completion window automatically. In settings, I have to enable the following checkbox, Show Suggestions as you type. So now as you can see, once I'm gonna start typing, window with auto-completion list appears automatically. By the way, if we're going to press Ctrl and space as auto-completion window is open, then auto-completion list will include not only the public members, but also protected and private members. Moving on, let's review another useful shortcut when it comes to completions. Let's start defining a new method here, but we're not going to type parentheses as well as opening and close curly braces of this method. Instead, we're going to make PhpStorm to add them for us. And to do so, we have to position the cursor on top of the method name and press Command-Shift-Enter. And right away we're seeing that parentheses as well as curly braces have been added automatically. Let's try it one more time. Let's define another method, position the cursor on top of the method name and press Command-Shift-Enter. And there we go. Method has been completed. It also works for some other symbols. For example, let's try it out on the example of the if statement. Once I will type if and then press Command-Shift-Enter, the if statement will be auto-completed. The same works in case of for loop. As we can see, it also has been completed after pressing Command-Shift-Enter. Now let's review so-called postfix completions, and they work in the following way. Firstly, we have to type in variable name or some literal value, and then specify dot, after which we have to specify one of the predefined tokens. For example, if I'll specify if and press tab to activate completion, as we can see, it has been expanded to the if statement, where the variable that we have used before has been put inside the condition. Another example how to quickly generate return statement is to firstly type in return value, then dot, and keyword return. After pressing tab, return statement expands to its normal form. Here is one more example. Let's use variable user, then dot, and use an n token in this case, which means not null. And after expanding this statement, we'll see that we got if conditional block, and inside of the condition there is an expression which compares our variable user with null value. There are actually a bunch of different postfix completions that we can use, and to check out the whole list of possible completions, we have to open up settings, go to postfix completion section, and here we can find a list of all possible postfix completions. Then to quickly open up documentation of a particular symbol in the completion list, we can press Option and space. The new floating window will be open with the implementation of a particular symbol that we have chosen in the completion list. And now let's review another type of completions, so-called smart completions that are based on AI. And these completions are called smart because they take under consideration the surrounding code. So for example, if we're gonna try to define new method in this class, before typing in the name for the method, PhpStorm suggests smart completion of the possible name for the new method. And as we can see, in my case, it is pretty accurate, since the method I have just deleted had this name comments. And then if I'll type in word return, then PhpStorm will suggest possible return value of this method. After pressing tab, this whole completion will be added. And once again, this completion is based on the surrounding context. For example, if I'm gonna try to return something from the scope method, PhpStorm suggests another completion that is relevant specifically to the scope methods in Laravel projects. So these AI-based completions are enabled in PhpStorm by default. And to disable them, we can go to Settings, open up Code Completion section, and uncheck the following option, Enable Full Line Suggestions. So now if we're gonna try to do the same thing, return something from this method, as we can see now, no completions appear. These AI-based completions come with a default setup of PhpStorm, provided by bundled plugin called Full Line Code Completion. And if we're going to search for this plugin in the settings, as we can see, this plugin is called Full Line Code Completion, which is bundled with PhpStorm. Alright, so since I prefer to show AI-based completions automatically, I'm gonna open up Code Completion section and check Enable Full Line Suggestions option. Once again, let's check it out that AI-based completions has been enabled. As we can see, they're showing up now. And lastly, I'm gonna open up settings once again and disable automatic appearance of auto-completion list, since I prefer to show auto-completion list whenever I need to, by pressing keyboard shortcut Ctrl Space. Once again, the option responsible for showing auto-completion list is called Show Suggestions as you type. I'm gonna uncheck this option. So my workflow when it comes to auto-completion is as follows. Once I start typing something and I need to see all possible completions, I press Ctrl Space. And then if I need to take a look at the implementation of a certain symbol, I'll choose it in this list and press Option Space. This way I'm getting floating window with an implementation of this symbol. And that's about it for completions. In this lesson we have reviewed 3 different types of completions: default completions, postfix completions, and AI-based completions. In this lesson, let's take a look how to open up all kinds of helpful hints, as well as inline documentation of certain elements. And we will start with parameter list of the function. So whenever we need to quickly take a look at the parameter list of any function, we can position our cursor on top of the function name or its parameters and press Command P, and this way we're going to get such pop-up with the list of parameters that this function accepts. This is how the default view of the function signature looks like, but there is also a way to show more expanded signature. And to instead show the expanded signature, we have to open up settings, go to Code Completion section, and here let's check the following option called Show Full Method Signatures. And if we're gonna press Command P once again while having our cursor on top of the function name, we're going to get more detailed view of the function signature. Or once again, we can have our cursor positioned at one of the arguments of the function, and keyboard shortcut Command P will work here as well. But I still prefer to show more concise function signature, so I'm gonna go back to settings and uncheck this option. Moving on. By the way, if you prefer using the mouse whenever you hover over on any element in the source code, the quick documentation will pop up regarding of that element. But in my case, I have disabled that option, so just to demonstrate this feature, I'm gonna go back to settings, open up code editing section, and enable the option called Show Quick Documentation on Hover. And now anytime I'm going to move my cursor on top of the method name or class name, I'm gonna get such floating window with quick documentation of the method, or in such case, a class constructor. But usually I do use keyboard shortcut to show this quick documentation, so I'm gonna disable this option. And to open up same documentation pop-up by using shortcut, we firstly have to position our caret on top of the element and then press F1 Or we can also run the following command from the command palette, quick documentation. As we can see, we're getting the same window. Now, to quickly take a look at the type of certain expression or variable, we have to move the cursor on that expression and then press Ctrl-Shift-P. And we're gonna get such a list with all possible expressions in the surrounding context. And for example, if I'll press this keyboard shortcut while having my cursor on top of the email key, I'm gonna get string, since this is the type of the value assigned to this array key. And then by using this list, I can figure out what the type of this whole expression will be passed as the second argument to the route function. In this case, it is obvious that we are passing an array, but sometimes the type of the more complex expression might not be that obvious. And finally, we're also able to get the type of this whole expression that is getting passed to the URL function. Sometimes it might be useful to take a look at the quick documentation of a particular symbol, and for such needs, we can position the cursor on the element that we are interested in, and then run the following command, quick type definition, and we're going to get floating window with an implementation of this element, whether it will be method definition, class definition, interface definition, or any other element. And to quickly navigate to the definition of the particular element, we can press Command arrow down. So this time, instead of showing the source in a floating window, we have navigated to the file where this element is defined. The same works with functions, and if we position our cursor on top of the function and press Command arrow down, as you can see, we have been navigated to the place where that function is defined. Next one, probably one of the most useful shortcuts in PhpStorm, is Option Enter. This works on any element, so whenever we are going to position our cursor on a particular element, and if we want to take a look at the list of all possible actions that we can do with that element, we can press Option Enter, which will open up such a list with all possible operations that we can perform with that element. In particular, what are some of the refactorings that we can perform with this element? Additionally, if we press F1, when having one of the options from this list selected, we're gonna get another floating window with the preview of the refactoring. Also, we can open up this menu with all possible refactoring options by using mouse. And in PhpStorm, by default, whenever we're going to position the cursor on the particular element, we're going to get light bulb icon, by clicking on which we're gonna get the same list of refactoring options. I currently have that light bulb icon disabled, but just to show how it looks, I'm gonna switch over to Settings, find an option which is responsible for showing that light bulb icon. It is located under Appearance section and called Show Intention Bulb. Now, as you can see, I get such light bulb icon that I can use to open up a list of possible refactorings. But as I said, for me it's much easier and faster to use keyboard shortcut to open up this list, and I'm going to disable this option for myself in order to not show this light bulb icon. So in this lesson we have seen different ways of how we can show all kinds of helpful pop-ups with hints in the source code. We will continue in the next one. PhpStorm has powerful capabilities when it comes to automatic code generation, and in this lesson we're going to review them. So if we're going to position the cursor inside of the class and press keyboard shortcut Command N, we're gonna get such a menu with many options for code generation. For example, if we have to generate constructor for this class, we select this option constructor. By the way, this list is also filterable. We just have to start typing. So I'm gonna choose option called constructor. After this, another window will be open when we can select which fields of this class we'd like to initialize in the constructor. In this case, I only have one field. So before generating the constructor, I would like to add a couple more fields just to demonstrate the concept better. So let's add a couple more fields inside this class. Both of those will be strings called title and body. And now let's press Command N again and select Constructor option. And now I'm going to choose all of these fields to be initialized in the constructor. And after pressing OK, as we can see, we got new constructor in this class, where all those fields that I have previously selected have been initialized. Moving on, just like we can quickly generate constructors, we can also generate so-called getters and setters for some properties. Or there is also an option to generate both of these types of methods at once. So let's say I need to generate getters and setters for title and body properties. For now, I'm going to uncheck the following option, Fluent Setters. We will take a look at what it's doing later on. And after pressing OK, we're going to see several new methods generated in this class. 2 of those are methods for the title field, and 2 of those are for the body field. Now let's generate setters and getters for title and the body once again, but this time I'm going to check this option, Fluent Setters. Our setters will be generated with the return value, which is an instance of the current class. So it will give us an opportunity to continue a chain in method calls after calling these setters, since these setters return an instance of the current class. Let's try to generate something else. For example, this time let's try to add doc-block comments to fields title and the body. And as you can see, those code blocks have been generated. There is also a very useful option to quickly generate test class. And to generate test, we have to select test in this menu. And now we are presented with a couple more options where we can specify which folder the newly generated class has to be saved into, as well as its namespace. And there we go, we got new test class exactly in the folder that we have specified previously. And by the way, to quickly switch between class and its corresponding test class, we can press Command-Shift-T while having our cursor inside the test class. And by pressing Command-Shift-T, depending on which class we're currently at, we're going to switch between original class and its test class. By the way, this menu for code generation that we open up by pressing Command-N is context dependent. So that means that if I'm gonna press this keyboard shortcut outside of the class, I'm gonna get a different list of options in this menu. And finally, let's review a couple more options for code generation. And for that, I'm gonna switch over to Playlist, Model, and in here, let's open up Code Generation menu by pressing Command-N. And let's consider the first 2 options that are Override Methods and Implement Methods. So the first option, which is Override Methods, allows us to quickly generate signatures for those methods that we'd like to override from the base class. And here we can even choose which methods exactly we'd like to override. And right after we are seeing that the method signatures we are about to override have been added to this class. Same goes with the case if we'd like to implement certain methods of interfaces. We also have to select which methods exactly we'd like to implement, and then we'll get signatures for these methods. And we just have to fill in those methods with implementation. And there we go, in this lesson we have reviewed several options when it comes to automatic code generation and how we can quickly generate boilerplate code. JetBrains IDEs have powerful capabilities when it comes to refactoring. And the main keyboard that opens up menu with refactorings is Ctrl-T. After pressing these keyboard shortcuts, we'll get such a list with all possible refactorings. And now we are going to review some of these options, and we'll start with the first one, which is introducing a variable. For example, if we'd like to extract some part of code into a separate local variable, in this case I'm going to extract this string password.reset. I will have to either choose the first option from this list or press keyboard shortcut option Command-V. And then I can choose further which part of this expression I would like to extract into a separate variable. And after selecting one of these options, we are seeing that the new variable was introduced. And I can also rename this variable right away if I would like to. Moving on to the next option. In this case, we're going to extract some part of an expression into a separate constant. So I'm gonna choose the option called introduce constant. By the way, this list with refactorings is also filterable. We just need to start typing. And just like that, new constant password reset has been created inside this class with the value of that string where our cursor was positioned on. Let's move on to the next option from this refactoring list, which is introducing new field in the class. It works just like with the first option where we have introduced new local variable, but in this case, we're gonna get new field in this class, where the extracted expression will be used as the value for this property. As you can see, the value for this property is being assigned right in the same method. But there are also other options, so let's try to apply the same refactoring once again, but this time let's choose a different strategy. For example, I would like the value for this property to be assigned right at the time where we are declaring this property. And that is why I'm choosing the second option in this list called property declaration. Let's take a look what is gonna happen in this case. So this time, instead of assigning value for the property inside the method, this value is being assigned to the property right away at the point where we have declared this property. Another option from this list called class constructor. And in this case, value for the property will be assigned inside the constructor of this class, as you can see. Another common type of refactoring is introducing parameter in a function. Let's say I would like this string password reset to be passed in this method as a parameter. So I'm gonna use introduce parameter, and this time, as you can see, the new parameter was added to the current method. And this parameter is being referenced automatically at the same place where we previously had that string. Next one, very common type of refactoring, which is extracting some piece of logic in a separate method. So let's say I would like to extract this route function call in a separate method. So I'm gonna use refactoring called extract method, and just like that, we're seeing that new method was automatically created, and this method is being called in that same place where we have started doing this refactoring. By the way, this type of refactoring also has some additional options, so let's try to do it again. And this time I'm gonna click on this gear icon, and we're gonna get such dialog where we can specify additional settings for this type of extraction. So in here I can rename the newly created method, and also I can choose access modifier for this method. Let's use protected, and make sure that this time new method has received our specified name, and its access modifier is protected. And indeed, we are seeing that the protected method with the specified name has been created. Another type of refactoring is to extract some part of logic from one class and put it in another. In here, it's called extract class. Let's try to use this type of refactoring. In this dialog, we can specify the name for our newly created class, as well as its namespace and the path where this class has to be created. And also we can choose what methods from the current class have to be moved to the new class. Just to demonstrate this type of refactoring, I'm going to move only one method to the new class called send password reset notification. And after pressing OK, we're seeing that the new file with the specified name has been created. And the class, in this case, contains only one method that we have chosen before, besides the constructor method of this class. And if we'll go back to the original class, where we have applied the extract class refactoring, we can see that in here, PhpStorm has automatically generated the code where this method send password reset notification is being called on our newly created instance of new class. And the instance of the new class is created and assigned to the new property superadmin in the constructor of this class. Alright, next up is extract interface refactoring. Let's use this one. We're getting an error message saying that in order to use this type of refactoring, we firstly have to position the cursor on the class name. Let's do so and invoke that refactoring once again. So in here, let's assign the name for the newly created interface and also specify which methods have to be included in the new interface. I'll choose only one method. And there we go, new file with an interface has been created that includes one method, send password reset notification. And that class, based on which we have created this interface, already implements this new interface, as we can see. Moving on to the next refactoring called move class. This is pretty simple refactoring which basically moves the current class to the new destination. So we have an option in here to specify new namespace for this class, as well as directory where this class has to be moved. And just like that, we are seeing that all necessary directory structure has been created for this class. And similar refactoring to the move class is copy class. In this case, it is basically going to copy the current class and put it in the new file. And also we can change name for the new class, as well as specify namespace and the path to the new file with this class. Alright, at the end, let's review remaining types of refactoring that are pretty similar. I'm talking about pull members up and push members down. So what pull members up means is that we can extract some methods from this class and move them in the base class, which this class inherits from. So here we can choose which exactly methods have to be moved to the base class. Let's choose only scope search method. It even shows us the name for the base class. In this case, it's called model. After applying this refactoring, as we can see, scope search method has disappeared from this class because it has been moved into base class model. As you can see, it is here now. But if we're going to apply an opposite refactoring, which is push members down, that means we are picking some methods from the base class and moving them into the child class. But I'm gonna get a warning when trying to do this refactoring, because in my case, scope search method that I'm trying to push to the child class already exists in some of the child classes, because model class is the base class for several other child classes that already have a method with the name of scope search. But I'm still going to continue, and let's see if scope search method has been moved into playlist class. And indeed we're seeing this method in here, but as I said, base model class is being inherited by several other classes. And this means that those other classes that already had this method, now they have two methods with the name of scope search. So as you can see, we have to be careful whenever we're going to receive any kind of warnings when doing such type of refactoring, to make sure that eventually we're going to get result that we expect. And that's about it. In this lesson we have reviewed several types of refactorings. In this lesson, let's review additional set of useful keyboard shortcuts. So to quickly toggle case of a certain word under the cursor, we can press Command-Shift-U, and by pressing this keyboard shortcut several times, we are able to toggle case. Then to fold or unfold certain code regions such as methods, classes, if blocks, for loops, etc., we can press Command-. And vice versa, to unfold certain regions, we can press Command+. Then there is also a way to toggle all regions at once in the file. To do that, we can press Command-Shift-. And to unfold all areas, we can press Command-Shift+. Another quick tip is that if we're gonna position our cursor not at the very end of the line but at the previous character, and if we'll put semicolon, PhpStorm is going to put this semicolon at the very end of this line. So it knows that semicolon has to be put at the end of the statement. Then to move around whole statements, we can firstly position the cursor at the statement that we'd like to move up and down, and then to move this statement up, we can press Command-Shift-Arrow-up, and to move this statement down, we have to press Command-Shift-Arrow-down. And as you can see, I'm able to move the whole statements, not only just lines separately. It also works for methods, and to quickly swap to methods, we can press Command-Shift, arrow up or down. But if you still have to move lines separately, regardless of the surrounding context, we can press Option-Shift, arrow up or down. And this way we are able to move individual lines. Next, to put single line comment on a certain line, we can press Command/, and to put multiple line comment, we can press Command Option/. To quickly duplicate current line, we can press Command-D. As many times we're gonna press this keyboard shortcut, that many duplicate lines we're gonna get. Then to quickly wrap certain statement into some block, we need to press Option-Command-T. We'll get such a list where we can choose which block we have to surround the current statement with. As you can see from here, we can quickly create if conditional block, while and for loops, or try-catch blocks to handle exceptions. By the way, JetBrains IDEs also support several entries in the clipboard history. For example, if I'll copy multiple chunks of code separately, and then down here, if I'd like to paste something from the clipboard history, instead of pressing Command-V to paste latest entry, I can press Command-Shift-V, and we're gonna get such dialog where we can choose the entry we need from the previously copied text. Also, it might come in handy to quickly copy-paste to the current file. To do so, we can open up Command Palette by pressing Command-Shift-A and run copy-paste reference command. From here, we can choose which path exactly we'd like to copy, whether it will be an absolute path to the file or a relative one, or just a file name. There is also a default keyboard shortcut which allows us to quickly copy-paste to the current file if we'll press Command-Shift-C and then press Command-V to paste. As you can see, we get the path to the current file from the file system root. And if we have to copy the path to the current file starting from the root of the project, we can press Option, Command-Shift-C. And this way we're gonna get the path starting from the root of the project. There is also a feature of JetBrains IDEs called Local History. Overall, it works in a similar way as Git version control. But of course, it's by far not as powerful as Git and definitely shouldn't be used as a replacement to Git, but as an additional tool to keep track of changes locally without committing them, we can use this local history. And here is how it looks like. To open up local history, we have to run local history command. In here, let's choose show history. We're gonna get a separate window with a set of changes that we have made to files. And from here, we can review those changes and discard some of them separately by pressing this arrow. Or there is also an option to discard all the changes from the given batch at once. And to do so, we have to press the following arrow. And by doing so, I have got all previously removed chunks of code back. There are a couple of modes how we can view changes in the local history. We can either use unified view, which is the current one, or side-by-side view, which is going to show version of the file before the change on the left, and version of that same file after the change on the right. So that's it for this lesson. Let's keep reviewing capabilities of JetBrains IDEs in the next one. Let's explore a couple of techniques how we can work with multiple cursors. So for example, if we are searching for something, let's open up search panel by pressing Command-F, type in some word, and then to put multiple cursors on all search matches, we can press Command-Ctrl-G. As you can see, all search results have been selected, and we can start editing them all at once. We can also do this in a little bit different way. So instead of opening up search panel, we can position the cursor on the word that we'd like to create multiple cursors on. We just need to press Ctrl-Command-G, and here we go. All such words have received selection and we can start editing them. One interesting way how we can expand or shrink selection based on the surrounding context is to press Option arrow up to expand selection and Option arrow down to shrink selection. And you can see that while I'm pressing these shortcuts, my selection starts expanding, covering more and more parts of the expression, and vice versa. When I'm pressing Option down, the selection starts shrinking. Next keyboard shortcut allows us to quickly create multiple cursors at the end of every selected line. First of all, let me select this chunk of code, and then to add multiple cursors at the end of every line, I can press Option-Shift-G, and multiple cursors have been added. Then to quickly add cursor right under the current one, we can press Option twice, but the second time when we press Option we have to hold it and press arrow down, and as many times I'm gonna press arrow down while holding Option key, the many cursors I'm gonna get right under the current one. The same works in opposite direction. If I need to create multiple cursors above the current cursor, I also have to press Option twice. Once again, the second time we press Option we have to hold it, and at the same time press arrow up, and multiple cursors will be created above the current cursor. Another way to quickly create multiple cursors in any place we wish is to hold Option and then just click in that place where we'd like the cursors to be created. There is also an interesting mode in JetBrains IDEs called Column Selection Mode, and this mode allows us to easily create multiple cursors on multiple lines. So let's see what I mean by that. By default, if we're going to select some part of code by using the mouse, as we can see, only one cursor is created at the end of this selection. But if I'm going to activate column selection mode by pressing Shift Command 8, and now if I'll try to select the same chunk of code, this time as we can see, cursors are added on every selected line. Same thing is going to happen if we're gonna create selection by pressing Shift and hitting arrow down or arrow up. As we can see this time, multiple cursors have also been created. And finally, to deactivate this column selection mode, we have to press Command-Shift-8. And now we're back to normal selection. So these were some of the ways how we can manage multiple cursors in JetBrains IDEs. In this lesson, let's review additional keyboard shortcuts to increase our productivity. There is one quick way to toggle some settings, and if we'll press Ctrl backtick, we're gonna get such window where we can switch values for multiple settings. For example, in here we can quickly change the layout of the IDE, its zoom level, code style scheme, or theme. Next one, if we'll press Ctrl twice, we will get such panel where we can run different commands in the terminal, and they will be executed right in the integrated terminal. Let's try to run one of these commands, and right away we're seeing logs produced by this command, just like if we would have run this command in the terminal. And to close this panel, let's press Shift Escape. Next one, a very useful feature of Git version control, is to quickly find out who lastly modified particular line. So let's open up Command Palette by pressing Command-Shift-A and execute the command called annotate with git blame. And right after this, we're gonna get name of the person next to every line who lastly modified this line. And in order for this feature to work, the current project has to be under Git version control. In the same way, we can toggle these blame annotations off by executing the same command. Another feature of JetBrains IDEs is to quickly create files of different types, in case we'd like to quickly try something out or basically make some notes. This feature is called Scratch files. So to create one of such Scratch file, we need to press Command-Shift-N or execute the command New Scratch file in the command palette. So from here we can choose the type for our newly created Scratch file. I'm gonna choose JSON, and right away we're seeing that syntax highlighting has been activated for the selected file type. And these Scratch files are created under the spatial group called Scratches and Consoles that we can see in the Project Explorer. Next, let's review the feature called Language Injection. For example, sometimes we have to use different language syntax in a different file type. For example, I'm currently inside PHP file, and if I'm going to use JSON syntax in here, we can see that this string is not recognized as a JSON syntax, but we can make it work by simply running the following command. Inject language or reference, and right here we just have to choose which syntax we'd like to activate for this string. And here we go, this string has been parsed and received proper JSON syntax highlighting. Let's try another example. Right under this variable I'm gonna create another one, and this time I'm gonna assign a string to this variable which will hold regular expression. Firstly, I'm going to inject regular expression syntax into this string by running inject language or reference command. As you can see, it worked, and regular expression string has received proper highlighting. But there is even more when it comes to regular expressions. We can check this regular expression right from within an IDE. So firstly, let's position the cursor over this regular expression and execute the command called checkRegExp. Right here we can test different strings and see what parts of these strings are being matched by regular expression. And to conclude this lesson, let's review another keyboard shortcut, Ctrl-Tab. If we'll press this shortcut, we'll be able to quickly switch between open files. And there you have it, we have reviewed additional set of keyboard shortcuts for your tool belt. Now let's review a widely used feature called live templates. In other editors, this feature is also called snippets. So to open up the list with all available live templates, we need to press Command J. And here we can see all available live templates and their abbreviations that we can use to expand them. So they work in the following way. We can either choose one of the live templates from this list or start typing its abbreviation, and then after pressing Tab, this live template will be expanded, which in this case, as we can see, live template that I have chosen was responsible for expanding to the static function. And then all I will have to do is just fill in all dynamic spots in this live template, such as method name and its parameters. Another example of the live template expands to the for each construct. So here we need to fill in a variable that we are going to iterate over, and we are done. Another example is echo, which expands into echo statement in PHP. List of all available live templates we can see in live templates section of the settings. Here we can see a bunch of different live templates that are all grouped by the context. And the context usually means file extension. So now let's try to create our own live template. I'm going to switch over to File with Routes, and based on the route definition, we're going to create live template. First of all, we have to select the part of code that we wish to create live template based on, and then let's open up Command Palette by pressing Command-Shift-A and choose an option Save as Live Template. So in here we have to fill in some of the parts of the live template, such as its abbreviation that we will use to expand this live template. Then we can also specify a description, and finally the main part of the live template is its content. I'm going to make a few parts of this live template dynamic, and to do so we're using variables which are defined by specifying $sign at the beginning and the end of the variable, like so. So I'm gonna define 3 variables, first of which will be path, that will be responsible for filling in the path for this route. The second variable is called resource, which is basically the name of the resource we're creating the route for. And finally we're gonna specify the method name, which is going to handle the current route. And also for these variables we can specify default values in case we're not gonna provide values for them. So for the variable called action, I will specify index as a default value. And then in here I'm gonna say that this template is going to be available everywhere in PHP files. Let's save this template and try to use it. So I'm gonna type in its abbreviation, which is road, then press tab, and as we can see, it has been expanded into the full road definition. So all we have to do in here is to fill in dynamic parts such as path, resource name, as well as action name, which already contains default name index, as we have specified earlier. And by the way, to switch between these dynamic regions, we have to press tab. Let's also make one more part dynamic in this live template definition. In particular, I'm gonna make dynamic the method name. So let's use another variable called method, save it, and try it again. Let's expand this live template. And this time I'm gonna have to fill in 4 dynamic parts in this live template, such as method name, path, resource name, as well as action name. Moving on to the next example, let's switch over to user.php and create another live template based on the scope method. This method has to start with the scope prefix. As always, first of all, we have to select the part that we have to create live template based on. Then let's execute the command save as live template. And let's provide abbreviation for this live template, as well as description. And finally, let's modify template text by removing all unnecessary parts. Let's also add a couple of dynamic regions by specifying variables. So I'm gonna make method name dynamic, as well as parameter list, in case we'll have to specify extra parameters that this scope method is going to take. And by the way, if we have to literally use $sign in live template definition, and because $sign is used to specify dynamic variables, we have to kind of escape $sign that we have to output as is. And to do so, we need to specify 2 $signs in a row, like so. Let's also do it in here. And finally, I'm gonna use one more variable, but this time it will be predefined variable with a special name and we use this variable in order to tell IDE when the cursor has to be positioned after expanding this template and after providing all necessary dynamic parts. So let's try to use this template now. Its abbreviation is scope. Let's expand it and provide dynamic parts such as name, parameters, and at the end, as we can see, our cursor has jumped to the position where we have specified variable with the name and. So as we can see, it is working. And just to practice a little more with creating live templates, let's create another one. This time I'm gonna use this relationship method. So our next live template will be expanded by using rel abbreviation, which is going to have 3 dynamic parts. First of all, we're gonna make relationship name dynamic, as well as related model. And finally, let's also make dynamic the method name itself. And additionally, for variable type, we're gonna specify default value, which is has many. Let's save the changes and try it out. Let's write rel, press tab to expand this template, and then fill in method name, its type, which by the way we don't have to change if we're okay to use default value, which is has many, and last dynamic value will be related model name. And just to position our cursor at the very end of this method, right after expanding this live template, I'm gonna switch back to settings and add special variable end right to the very end of this live template. Let's save the changes and try it again and see where our cursor will be positioned at the end of expanding this live template. And also, besides specifying default values for dynamic variables, we can also specify some functions, which is going to transform value for this dynamic variable based on some logic. In this case, I'm going to use complete And what this will allow us to do is, while expanding this live template and specifying the value for this variable, we're gonna get autocomplete. So we can choose the method name from the list of all available autocomplete options. One more time, let's expand this template by using rel and pressing tab. And then once we reach the second dynamic region, right away we're gonna get an autocomplete, thankfully to that complete function that we have specified in the expression field for this variable. And finally, at the end, let's try another example of the live template, which is going to be a little bit different from ones we have already reviewed. Because this live template is going to work in a way that firstly, we would have to select some code, and then we will be able to wrap the selected code with another code that will be determined by the live template itself. So for example, we want to create a live template to quickly wrap certain code into array. As always, we start defining live template by selecting the text and running the command with the name save as live template. And now I'll use another predefined variable called selection, and this variable is going to store the text that we have selected before using this live template. So all I have to do in here to wrap the selected text into array is to wrap it in brackets, like so. And then to wrap certain code into live template, firstly let's select this code and press Option Command J. This time we're getting an error saying that no surround templates defined in this context, which basically means that we haven't specified proper context where our live template will be available. So let's open up settings once again and specify proper context for this live template. In this particular case, I want this live template to work in any PHP files, regardless of the context in that PHP file. Let's do one more try. Select the text, press Option Command J, and now we have one option available in this list, which is our live template that we have created before. Let's choose this option, and just like that, we were able to quickly wrap certain piece of code into an array. Also, as you may remember, we have reviewed another keyboard shortcut in one of the previous lessons, which is Option Command T, which opens up such surround with menu, and here we can wrap some code into different conditional blocks, for statements, try-catch statements, and so on. And at the end of this list, we also have available live templates, so we can use this list to wrap the code by using our live templates as well. And finally, before finishing this lesson, let's switch over to the file with markup and try to use surround with feature by wrapping tags into other tags. So first of all, let's select the tag we'd like to wrap and then press Option Command J. We got a couple of options. First one is surround with a particular tag, and the second one is wrap with an emmet syntax. The first option is pretty simple. It basically allows us to wrap selected text into another tag. All we have to do in here is to provide the name for the new tag, and that's it. And the second option from this list, which is emmet, is pretty similar. It basically allows us to use emmet syntax while wrapping the code. So instead of simply specifying the name of the wrapping tag, we can also add additional attributes such as ID or class attributes. And that's about it. In this lesson we have reviewed capabilities of live templates, how they are created and how they are used. There is another widely used feature in JetBrains IDEs that allows us to drastically speed up our development, and that feature is called file templates. And what it basically allows us to do is it allows us to quickly create files with predefined content. So let's try it out. I'm gonna press Command 1 to move my focus to the sidebar, and in here let's press Command N. We'll get a list with different files which we can quickly create. For example, let's try to create PHP class. All we have to do in here is to specify the name for the newly created class, and then we'll get new PHP file created with populated template for the PHP class inside. but we usually tend to create many different files of the same type, especially when working with a framework. For example, in Laravel projects, we usually create a lot of eloquent models that all have the same template. And as an example, to be able to quickly create eloquent models, we can create file template that is going to store the skeleton for the eloquent model. Usually, eloquent models are stored under app models namespace, and they all extend base model class. And some of the models might also have hasFactory trait. So now to get some practice creating file templates, let's create file template for the eloquent model. First of all, let's select the template of one eloquent model as an example that we're gonna use while creating file template. And then everything related to file templates can be found under File and Code Templates section in the settings. Here we can see the list of all available live templates that currently exist. Let's create new file template by pressing the plus sign. Here we assign the name for this file template, and then in this field, let's paste the code that we have just copied. This is the code for the eloquent model. Let's also remove unnecessary parts, and after applying the changes and saving new file template, let's try it out and use it. So this time when we're gonna press Command N while having our focus at the File Explorer, we're gonna get the list where we can find our new file template with the name eloquent model. And if we'll use it, we have to provide file name, and that's it. We have just created file that contains the code for the eloquent model. But of course, the name of this class has to match the file name. So let's fix it. I'm gonna go back to File Template Settings, choose Eloquent Model Template, and here in the body of the file template, besides using normal text, we can also use all kinds of variables. We can read more about available variables right here. So now let's use one of these variables, which will be a name that basically stores the name of the file name. And just because we want the file name to match the class name, we can use this variable name in the place of the class name right here. Alright, so let's remove this subscription model and recreate it. Specify the file name for this model, and this time, as we can see, the class name is the same as the file name, which is exactly what we need in this case. Besides using dynamic variables when defining file templates, we can also use all kinds of logical constructs. One example of this construct we can see in the predefined PHP class file template. In here, the if construct is used to add namespace statement in case value for the variable namespace was provided. So let's see how that works. I'm gonna copy over this block, put it in our eloquent model file template, instead of using namespace statement directly. And this time this namespace statement will only be added if we'll provide value for the namespace variable when using this file template. So one more time, let's use our file template to create new eloquent model with the name subscription, but this time besides file name field we also have additional field called namespace. And if we'll leave this field blank, then file template will be created without the namespace statement. And this time if we'll create eloquent model based on our file template once again, but fill in the namespace field. This time, namespace statement will be added with the namespace that we have specified. Alright, now let's create another file template to quickly create controllers. Let's open up an example of one of the controller classes. So all controller classes by default exist under app HTTP controllers namespace, and all of them have to inherit from the base controller class from the same namespace. So let's create file template to quickly generate files that have controller templates. We're gonna follow the same procedure. Let's press plus to add another file template, call it Laravel controller. And now let's copy the example template of one controller, paste it as a content into this file template, and instead of hard-coding class name, we're gonna use variable called name to make file name be the same as the class name. And let's try it out. I'm gonna press Command 1 to focus on the file explorer and press Command N to create new file. Let's choose our new file template called Laravel controller. As always, we have to specify file name for the new class, and controller has been generated with the class name same as the file name. And as you can see, template for the controller, just like template for the Eloquent model, they both have namespace statement. And just to make the code for these templates more reusable, we can extract some of the repeated parts of the templates and move them into their own partials. They're called includes. All these includes are stored under this includes tab. Let's create another include, call it PHP namespace, and paste the if statement, which determines when namespace statement has to be added. After this, we have to somehow use this include for our file templates, and the way we use it is basically this. Let's copy this line, paste it into our Eloquent model file template, but of course we have to change the name of this include, and the name has to match that name we have specified when creating this include, which in this case is PHP namespace. And of course, same change has to be made to Laravel controller template. In here we also have to include our PHP namespace partial. And after that, let's remove subscription Eloquent model as well as subscription controller class and try to regenerate those classes again. We'll start with the controller. Let's use Laravel controller template, specify the file name as well as namespace. And there we go. We got the controller with the namespace we have just specified. Same goes with the model. Let's create an Eloquent model with the name subscription and the namespace app/models. And we got generated template, which also includes specified namespace. And this is it for this lesson. We have reviewed what file templates are and how to create them to speed up our development. There is a feature in JetBrains IDEs called Quick Lists, and in this lesson we're gonna review how to use them. So to see all available quick lists, we have to open up Quick Lists section in the settings. As you can see, by default, I have only one quick list called deployment, with all the actions related to the deployment process. And the main idea of quick lists is basically get a quick access to some of the actions that we frequently use and we do not have keyboard shortcut assigned for. Instead, we're gonna have only one keyboard shortcut to open up the list with all frequent actions, and we can just choose an action from the list that we'd like to perform at that point. So first of all, we have to assign keyboard shortcut to a particular quick list by searching for the name of this quick list in the key map section and assigning keyboard shortcut to it. So I'm gonna create another quick list with favorite actions. Let's name this list favorites. And then we just have to add all the actions that we'd like to see in this list by pressing this plus sign. We can either look for actions manually, or we can also use the search field to search for a specific action. So right after we have added all necessary actions to this list, we can also group them logically to have some visual separation by adding a couple of horizontal separators, like this. Now that our list is ready, let's go to key map section, search for our favorites quick list, and assign keyboard shortcut to open up this list. I'm gonna use Ctrl Option Command F. Let's save the changes. And now anytime I need to get a quick access to my favorite actions, I can press Ctrl-Option-Command-F and I will get such a list with favorite actions. This one is also filterable. Once again, for frequent actions, it's better to use keyboard shortcuts. But in case there are so many keyboard shortcuts that we cannot memorize all of them, it might also be useful to create such a list with frequently used commands to quickly get access to all of them by simply memorizing only one keyboard shortcut, which opens up this quick list. And there we go, this is the last lesson of this series, where we have reviewed several techniques, various keyboard shortcuts, and in general ways to improve and speed up our development to be more productive.